Welcome back to Almost Above Average. I'm Chris McIntyre here with Jonathan Travis, and today we're diving into the power of perspective and the real impact of mindset on personal growth. We'll share our own stories about manifestation, goal setting, and why asking the right questions can change your life. Plus, we'll explore how self-help literature, technology, and even today's biggest societal challenges all play a role in shaping our future. Stick around as we tackle everything from health and awareness to the dangers of misinformation and conspiracy theories. Now let's get started on Almost Above Average with Jonathan Travis. Mr. Robbins, welcome back to Almost Above Average. We thought we'd do a little something different here with Mr. Jonathan Travis. We're going to do a little upbeat episode, if you will. But we're going to start off with a video from Mr. Tony Robbins. Maybe. You haven't seen this one, Jonathan?
I have no idea.
All right.
I've seen a lot of it.
I bet you saw some beige shit, called it brown just to feel successful, did you? I bet you saw some things burgundy and called them red just so you could feel successful.
I factored in some of those now and later.
You see what I'm saying? If you think you're screwed up, you're messed up, you're going to find and you're going to color yourself that way.
It's really cool. So they call that the basis of manifestation, depending on the book you're reading. Like,
the basis
if you believe
of what is it called?
It'll become manifestation. So a lot of the different help topic books talk about manifestation. And I like it because it talks about how your viewpoint can be applied once you have it. But having it is something he talked about in his book too. And you remember Muhammad from the gym? He was walking in one day, a little bit downtrodden, a little tired. And he looked at me and goes, "How's it going?" Did normal intros. He goes, "I got to take my car and get fixed." And he goes, "Oh, right." And I was like, whoa. I was just in the mood that day. I just finished reading a section in the
You're like, I'm not going to leave you negative today.
Nope. I like that guy too much. I just finished a whole segment in his Awaken the Giant book. He talked about changing your perspective on how you see things by asking different questions or asking it in a different way. And I said, whoa, hold on. Let me get this straight. You have money to get your car fixed? He goes, "Yeah." I was like, wait, let me get this straight. You get to go get your car fixed? And he started catching on what I was doing.
You have a place to go to bring your car to get fixed?
You have a car? You have a car? Oh my God. Whoa. This is a Wednesday morning. You get to go and spend the part of your day waiting for something and not having to worry about busting coal out of a mine or something? Holy shit, that's amazing. Where do you
park that car? Do you park that car at a place that you reside where your things are?
But when you're at the shop, what are you going to do? Or do you have to go shovel coal into a fire? Do you have to go clean out a dumpster? No, you get to read and watch a show on the... Oh my God, this is amazing. Perspective, right? So we talked about looking at different perspectives and asking the right questions to look at it. So, most of America, also a lot of the world, looks at things like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to go do this. I have a car. I have an opportunity to go fix it. I have the money to go fix it. I have the time to go fix it. And I get to do whatever I want while I'm fixing it. It's like that perspective's like invigorating and exciting. And then once it's fixed, I have a working, fully functioning car. That's amazing.
Right.
Instead of like the old busted jalopy can't get you down the road. Like that perspective shift, the ability to ask the opposing questions, the ability to look at it differently. And then what he was talking about is like, if you think about brown, you see brown, punch buggy kind of stuff, right? Like if you think of a car, you see it everywhere kind of stuff. And it's part of your logic filter. So there's this concept of the subconscious receives millions of inputs a day or even more than that. And in your preconceived notions from your consciousness applies filters to what you see through the subconscious, because its whole goal is to kick out anything that's not relevant to what you need for survival. What you need for survival is based on what's on your mind and what you think you need to think about. And it goes through that barrier. So like brown and red, or how I get to view my day, what I get to enjoy out of it. All that's based on this preconceived question set you have in your head at any given time.
Where does that come from? Your upbringing?
Everything. So what you've learned, how you're taught to learn, how you're taught to think, the environment you grew up in, the experiences you've had, your education, your genetic predisposition to how you think, like everything that you have. But the biggest point, and this is what he's making in that video and he made in the book, you are in control of it. And that's what everybody forgets. So many people get so lost in the minutia or the emotional sweep that they lose focus on the control that they actually have. In the book, he talks about a guy that lost his son. And he dedicated, if I remember correctly, his time to conquering that illness. And then it's like, well, yeah, he lost his son. That's horrible, but what can you do with it? Another guy got burnt up in a really bad fire, but then he used it to like help other people and do more. And then he had another trouble and he used it to do more versus the guy who had everything. And that perspective change, that dedication, that move, like you were in a gym today. You had hip surgery. You could have easily just laid around and done nothing or been miserable or unhappy. Oh, whoa, why is this happening to me? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
It would have been
yeah,
pretty
you can
easy.
revel. You can revel in that. You can think about how bad it is, or you can say, I have a new opportunity. I can grow past this. I don't have to worry about that weakness ever again. I've overcome a challenge and something that was holding me back. What else can I do? What more can I take advantage of?
That's the thing that most of the majority of people that I come across in the world don't get. It's like they haven't conquered themselves like even one little bit to know that they can.
And to think about all the people that are going to have hip replacement, how cool would it be if you had a support group for that, if you were really invested in it, and being able to talk to them and get them out of the scary part of it. And what is it going to be like on the other side and how you have to manage and like, that kind of stuff. Like you can share that. You can help build up the community. I love the concept of a rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah, it's a beautiful concept.
So you bring out your experience and help somebody else through it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that about community.
That's exactly how the AA program works. How I kind of credit a lot of my growth. I learned how to learn through AA, and I also learned how to look at myself objectively, to learn that I was lying to myself for a long, long time, and to be able to become comfortable enough to admit that to myself. Like, yeah, I was totally telling myself a story for 20 years, 30 years, whatever the case might be. This big part of my life seems to be self-discovery. I keep seeing things that I realized I was lying to myself about for decades. You know what I mean?
And that thing you just mentioned is probably one of the most valuable things that you could share to everybody else. The recognizing you're lying to yourself, not beating yourself up, and figure out how to learn from it and move forward. That's the goal of it, right? But that's what everybody suffers with. I know so many people that are like overwhelmed or lying to themselves or hiding from the truth or whatever. It's wild. Like
it's
I know somebody
most people. Like it is staggering. It's most people.
And it's all based around this ego that we have. And so everybody has an ego, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Humbling yourself before your ego or moving things that build up your ego as a means of resetting and humbling yourself to begin again, to be able to learn. What is it this thing I say? Only a fool has nothing to learn. The idea that you need to have failure in order to grow and build from it is quintessential to everything we've talked about today, but also changing how you look at it so that it's not oh, woe is me, or I'm a bad person, or I'm a failure, but like, okay, I didn't do this. Now what's next? Where do I want to go? How do I want to build up? What actions do I need to take and actually start moving yourself to where you want to be? And that's one of the beautiful things about AA. I haven't personally been. I'm very familiar with it. And the book and a lot of the motivational materials out at different places, it's all about that concept.
Right. Remember The Secret? This back in like the 90s or something?
The Secret's the same thing.
Right.
It's literally the same thing. And that manifestation is what that Four Secrets or the Four Agreements is about, and some of these other books. The idea, and a lot of this is about it, is if you decide that you can and you decide that you're going to, and you start trying to figure it out, the rest of it falls in place because your subconscious starts letting information through that wouldn't have. And you can build on that, grow from it, and actually achieve something you wouldn't have been able to achieve before.
Right. I got a story about that about manifestation. So I read The Secret. I've been, reading self-help books for years, not really getting myself anywhere. But I always believed in the power of manifestation and the power of journaling, just writing out intentions and that kind of stuff. I've been doing that since I was in high school. And so when I moved here, it was a big decision for me. I had decided I was going to quit drinking, move to North Carolina, and not be a piece of shit anymore, which was a big decision for me at the time. Okay, so I'm headed out here. I got 2 bags of clothes, and I bought a fresh notebook and a pack of pens. Like, all right, I'm going to start my fresh journal. I'm going to write down my goals, my intentions, all this, all that kind of stuff. In the airport that day, I wrote down some minor fitness goals. I wasn't even working out at all. Like, I had played sports when I was in high school, but I wasn't like athletic or anything. So my goals, like on the journal page, was like 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, jog for 5 minutes. Very, very simple stuff. So I started doing that like day one in the hotel when I got here. And then some more of those goals were start a YouTube channel with my children, and because they were really into TikTok, and I was like, all right, I can connect with them on social media stuff because they loved that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what that kind of turned into is now I own a media company, and we're on a podcast right now. That I wanted to start a YouTube channel with my kids. I wrote that down 4 years ago, and now we're talking on my YouTube channel with 7,000 followers. You know what I mean?
So if we help one of those,
totally believe it. Yeah, I totally believe in the power of manifestation.
Oh yeah. 100%.
The negative is also true. Where do you stand on that? A lot of times me and my wife will be talking about like the future and trying to plan for real possibilities that might happen. And I tend to go with what might go wrong. And she'll be like, no, don't manifest that bad. Don't manifest that thing. So it's like, no, babe, I'm just planning for it. It's a weird double-edged sword, if you will.
Was it plan for the worst, hope for the best, land in the middle or something like that?
Right.
The old mantra. I know there's been a number of times where something has happened and I'll be like, oh, that was what I was hoping was going to happen or what I expected was going to happen. My wife looks at me and goes, you manifested that and here's how you did it. I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right. It still seems like a superpower, it's a weird phenomenon.
And given that it happens with, like, how often it happens with direct drive or direct input is just wild to me.
I think maybe with the manifestation, I think part of it is I also incorporate the writing of it. Like I like to write it down, record it somewhere so that it comes up all the time. I'm always writing about it now. You know what I mean? So I'm actively planning along my dreams. So I guess it's not really manifesting if I'm just planning it out the entire time, right?
No, actually it's both, right? Planning and manifesting the dreams that you planned. That's the action that follows the desire.
Right.
So yeah, you're manifesting your dreams, which is what you wrote down.
That's pretty cool though.
And I did that with the book. Like it talked about where do you want to be in 1, 5, 10 years? What are the most important, sorting it and all that kind of stuff. And I went through the exercises and was really surprised at what I came out of it with.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm on here with you is I want to get into this space and I want to share my intellect and thoughts and feelings and pattern recognition and everything with everybody else.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help a few people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's
maybe I can set a torrent loose.
That's what the whole podcast is about, sharing information, sharing stories that ultimately will help somebody else,
Excellent. Well,
I
hope everybody else out there thinks about their goals, gets their subconscious lined up, and manifests something beautiful.
I got another short story I want to tell everyone about manifesting. So journaling has always been a big thing to me. And there was, 5-6 years that I was just heavy into methamphetamine and just a dark, dark world. But I journaled during this time. Mostly it was just, ramblings of a crackhead. But you could always tell that I wanted to be a better person. Like through all my messed up writings, I was always trying to be a good person. Like in this one binder that I still have and I still write in today, it's divided into 4 different sections. And in the dividing sections, on the first one I wrote, by the time I get to this page, I hope I have quit smoking meth. And I put that on the first divider. And like the next one was, I hope to be married and have a kid or 2 or something like that. So I wrote those 2 things out and those 2 things happened, almost like magic. I'm surprising myself when I'm reliving this story. It's like, I keep doing this. I wonder how many more times I've done this.
Well, what else can you do?
Right.
What bigger stuff can you let yourself do?
Right. Use some more of this brain power. They say we only use 10%, right?
Nah.
So when did your perspective change?
Which one?
Did you have a perspective change, or did you always have I view you as a pretty level-headed guy, but we've only known each other a couple of years now, or a year or so.
I was raised by an engineering family. So the idea that the world is a thing that we can manipulate and adjust and that we were smart enough to do that was since I was a kid.
Okay.
I've always had that perspective. I was always taught I can outthink my way out of things. And if I can't, then so be it. But I have to build and keep going.
Do you have that as a value growing up?
And I mean, there have definitely been times where I felt like giving up or whatever. And I've definitely quit things numerous times that I just, whatever. But, in general, it came down to this realization that I am as smart as I can be. And whatever that is, less or more. And it's up to me to think my way or do my way or be consistent or put in the hard work or whatever I have to do to get to where I need to be. And over the course of my life, I've spent time listening and learning and paying attention and figuring out how to do better or how to learn better or how to think better and then applying it. And that's why people think I'm psychic sometimes, because I know things I shouldn't know because I paid attention. I listened and I learned and I recognized the behaviors and I did all those things.
Yeah. Did you ever go down the self-help rabbit hole with all those books?
You don't even want to know what my library looks like with all the self-help books and different perspectives. But I'm also a big fan of like Einstein, and I forget who he quoted, intelligence is knowing what you don't know. And that is such a profound statement that most people don't even recognize. And people talk about, oh, that's not the way it is. It's like, well, let's use a corollary of if you took a fighter jet back 200,000 years ago, they would think it's the gods. In fact, there's a story of that on a military base. It was on this primitive island back in, what was it, Vietnam or World War II or something, and they still worship the airplanes that used to land on there, the U.S. military airplanes.
That would make sense.
It's a whole thing. So they didn't know, but we do. Does that make them inferior? No, it just makes them less knowledgeable than us. And if you think about what we're learning today, it dwarfs anything we knew before. My dad made a comment of my grandfather, when he was born, rode around on horses and donkeys and only had the one outfit and had to grow his own food, didn't get to go to school, lived through all this stuff. And when he passed, he had a cell phone, flat screen TV, people were in space, TV, and he had news around the world. The difference is unbelievable. And I keep thinking about what's the difference for me? What are we going to learn? What are we going to do differently? So the idea that I know enough is just ridiculous to me. I think nobody knows enough.
That's an offensive statement.
But good. Like if it challenges people to learn and do better and be more, what's the problem? Like don't be offended. Absolutely. Continue to grow and learn. Like I will die an ignorant man compared to all the knowledge in the universe, no matter how hard I try. Right. And that's just the way it is. But I'm going to close that gap as much as I can in a reasonable amount of life.
Me too. And I use YouTube to do it, damn it.
And my stupid level library. My Kindle's loaded.
Yeah. You know, my favorite self-help book that I've read and that I use the advice from every day at the gym, actually, is the 5-second rule.
God, I love that rule.
Have you read
Mel
that?
Robbins. Yeah.
What a great book, man. And I do that with reps, like especially when I'm about to rep heavy. I use it consistently daily, I think.
Oh yeah, like sometimes getting out of bed's like that's like, no, I don't feel like getting out of bed and going to gym. 5, 4, get my ass up.
Dude, it doesn't totally makes sense and it totally works. What a simple ass concept. Have you heard her story too? Before she like ever wrote that book, she was like falling apart, like everything was going shitty in her life, and then all of a sudden that kind of stuff is like God to me.
Primarily an alcoholic, getting ready to get a divorce, millions or almost $1 million in debt, lost everything.
Yeah. Turned it around completely and helped me in the process.
And it helped a lot of people. Like that's one of the beautiful things is not only did she do that, but have you watched any of her podcasts? There's some great content in there.
I have.
I'm still learning new stuff.
She has a really good podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's got a new book, Just Let 'Em, which I love that whole concept of. It's just so intriguing.
I haven't heard of that book. Do you have that book?
Yes. It's really interesting. I'll give you the quickest version I have for it. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but Keanu Reeves was asked if somebody came up to you saying some controversial stuff on it, the world is flat or whatever, what would you do? He goes, if somebody came up to me and said 1 + 1 = 5, I'd say, cool, bro. Good story. Good luck with that. And just leave. Like, what are you going to do?
See ya.
No. And then the same thing with the world is flat or whatever. Like, I don't have time for this. Just let them.
I'm not going to engage. I have nothing to prove in this situation.
Or they're baiting me. They're wasting my time. They're bringing down my energy. Whatever euphemism we want to use or review or statement or whatever. It's not worth our limited time on earth. There's things I can be doing and enjoying, teaching, learning. That's so much more valuable to both myself and maybe somebody else that I get to help down the road.
You know, a lot of people that have a problem starting, and you see that, like I see it in my family with just trying to get them to go to the gym. But it's not just like going to the gym. It's like that with like their dreams. Like they're not following their dreams. They want to be safe and go to their job, or they're just afraid to take a step into the future. You know what I mean?
Well, we're built for that, right? Like the idea that we want to be able to perpetuate meaning that we'll take what we know is safe over what could be better but failure and lose is built into our genetics, right? That's just how we're built. And it is the rare duck that can say, I can do this, I can do it, or figure out how to do it safely or unsafely and go for it. But the people that do it unsafely, the people who really step out of their shell, those are the ones that are either complete failures and gone or have done the most amazing things on the planet.
The most what? Amazing things on the planet?
Amazing things on the planet. Like the nuclear bomb is a great example of that. He didn't take the time to figure out everything in minutia, and he ends up dying from it because of what he did. The radiation burst. Have you heard about that?
No.
When they were building up, they had the nuclear bomb core, and it had the material in the middle, and he had a screwdriver holding it apart, and the screwdriver slips, it slams shut and puts out a radiation pulse, and he ends up dying from it.
Jeez.
Could he have been careful? Could he have done?
Loving Almost Above Average? Help us continue making a positive impact. Subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share your feedback or personal stories to mcmedia.network.llc@gmail.com. Your support means the world to us, and it keeps the engaging content coming. Thanks again.
On a smaller scale? Could he have done the research ahead of time in small slices, as some people like to put it, to make sure he doesn't end up in a situation? The answer is yeah, obviously yes. Scaling, magnitude, research, blah, blah, blah. But he wouldn't have got it done in his lifetime. We wouldn't have the bomb when we did. We couldn't have ended World War II when we did. And for him being aggressive and being willing to take a monumental leap instead of playing it safe helped us end the war decades or years earlier, maybe even a decade earlier, and may have saved millions of lives. Who knows?
Sounds like you need a little reckless.
Well, the people who are reckless are the ones who usually take the chances and are more often likely. What is it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Wayne Gretzky. That's one of my favorite quotes. It's 100% of the shots you don't take. Get in there.
And that's one of the things I love about talking to new people and taking that shot is, what if I can change their perspective? What if I can help them have a better life? What if I can help them just have a better day? What if I can do something that makes the world a little bit better with nothing that I'm giving up? So I always make a point of trying to be nice, extra nice to people out there.
Right.
And it's great. Putting more joy out into the world, changing my perspective so I can help change other people's perspectives downstream.
No, that's a beautiful thing. I try to live by that also. But it took me, the only way that I could change my perspective is I had to lose like every ounce of who I thought I was. I hope that's not the story for everyone. Well, apparently it's not for you. That's great.
Well, no, like there's so much of me that's similar to what I was when I was a kid. And there's so much of me that's different than what I was as a kid. Who I know myself as is completely different than who I knew myself as back then, because I know more, I understand more. There's less magic in certain areas and more magic in other areas, like the Fermi's paradox. Now that I know that and I understand that and I see the science changing, I'm hypnotized by the possibilities of our reality.
What is that?
So the Fermi's paradox is the why haven't we met aliens yet? And there's the Drake equation.
I think we have, though. Yeah, right.
I don't know. That goes in the bucket of I don't know.
Right.
But there's all this stuff coming out with the Weber telescope that is giving us new information and new understandings and completely redefining our understanding of the universe in ways that we didn't have. So there's this great example. And this is the changing the perspective with better input and better thought. Like, do you know about the Drake equation? There was a question before, I think it was Congress, like years ago, of what is the probability of aliens? Because that's been on our minds since we were drawing on cave paintings, right? Gods, aliens, etc. And this guy, I can't remember his first name, but he talked about, well, if there's so many solar systems based on what we can see in the sky, and of those, only these amount have a sun that is capable of supporting life, generating the right amount of energy, not too much, not too little, not too much gravity, etc. And then you have a planet that's far enough away and has the right amount of percentage. And you start adding up the percentage likelihood of each of these different things. As he continued to add these variables to the equation, the chances of aliens and us meeting them went to near zero.
Near zero?
Near zero.
I was going to say
think about
100%, I bet.
No, it like when you really do the math, it gets really wonky. So if you think about how many solar systems there are, how many have a planet that's the right distance from the sun, that has the right amount of sunlight to be able to feed life and generate fuel for us, like organic fuel, like the things we eat, the It has the right amount of oxygen and other necessary chemistry from both on the planet, off the planet. Size of the planet makes a big difference. Like if the gravity is too high or too low, like you can't really have the same kind of life we have now. There was a recent article that was talking about a planet we discovered is 3 times larger than Earth. And the reality is, if life grew on there, the chances that they could get off that planet are a lot lower because the gravity is so much higher. Overcoming gravity with a rocket on that planet is significantly less likely than overcoming gravity with a rocket on this planet. You would need substantial, 10 times or 20 times more fuel per rocket, and it'd have to be more powerful in order to get the same capsule out of the atmosphere.
And you'd have to design your suits to accommodate the new.
And don't forget all the
Atmosphere and
biological changes of the increased gravity on our biochemistry. Like there's so many. So size of the planet, enough of the right stuff to support life, enough far enough from the sun, the right sun, other planets to intercept comets and whatnot, so that we don't get blowed up again, like it's happened numerous times, and like the thing that killed the dinosaurs, that kind of stuff. And then it has to have that for a long enough period for life to evolve on it, and then like. At that time, we didn't know about any other super Earths. We didn't see enough other suns that do it. None that were in the Goldilocks zone, which is that distance from the sun that a planet could even support life with the right amount of energy, gravity, blah, blah, blah. Not burning up, not too cold kind of stuff. And then we just didn't know it. But as our technology's gotten better, as the Weber has gone out there, we found hundreds of super Earths, many of which could support life. Some that seem to have chemical profiles that we think may actually currently have some form of life. So the equation, that percentage chance on each of those variables shrunk or grew, depending on how you want to do the math, to closer to 1% or 50% or 100%. And as we continue to expand out and see it and change our perspective on how travel exists and how we can move and what is the meaning of life. There was one of the guys that was on a security group for the United States military that did UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena tracking
the new UFO,
for them.
Right?
Yeah, so UFO is unidentified, right? But UAP could be a variety of different things. And the idea that it's a plane or a vehicle that holds organic life is kind of silly. Like, why would we send an organic being that's going to die of old age or need materials to survive when we can send artificial intelligence, uploaded intelligence? There's a lot of concepts around pure energy-based intelligence. Like, there's all these different, why would it have to have a body? Why can't it just be a consciousness in a total probe? Like, there's a whole line called the Bobaverse, which is kind of neat.
What is
sci-fi
a
series.
consciousness?
Yeah, define consciousness. You can get into it. Like, so the idea
Can you hand me that consciousness over there? It's in a jar on my dresser.
Right, which is a great topic on AI. But anyway, like, what are we even equating? Like, what is, who knows, right? So, like, the other thing too is how long could it take for a civilization to not implode? Like, what are the odds that a civilization just doesn't die off from one reason or another? Grew too fast, was genetically too disposed to being violent, or whatever. Factions, warring,
Every
outbreaks
society
of diseases.
is created and they're already doomed. I mean, whatever planet they're on is going to expire. Whatever solar system they're in will expire at some point,
Including ours. Our planet has a clock on it. It's not nearly as long as people think, but it's getting worse with everything that's happening right now, which is a whole different topic.
Should I pack some bags or?
Well, if you want my actual answer, yes.
Shit, we gotta go.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I'm staying here is my only significant fear here is hurricanes, not earthquakes, not really tornadoes as much, not flooding, hurricanes. But if you look at the weather trajectory, technically, yes. But anyway, back to the aliens and the Drake equation. So as we learn more, the probability of meeting an intelligent life is going up significantly. And as we learn more about the universe, there's concepts coming about us being in a pocket universe, us being in a...
What's a pocket universe? Do tell.
So if you think about like black holes, there's this theory that, how black holes just suck in everything? Where does it go? So a lot of people are speculating there's
it doesn't
another
matter.
universe.
It doesn't need an explanation, okay? It's a black hole. It goes in, and that's it. That's all we need.
Right. So a lot of people think there's a universe on the other side of that black hole.
What do you mean there's a universe on the other side of a black hole?
Yep. And we may be in one of those.
In the universe or the black hole?
Inside the universe on the other side of the black hole, outside of the main universe.
We're the butthole of the other universe? Are we
Well,
the B side?
Yeah. Well, that's a theory. That is some people are theorizing that this is artificial, so who knows?
I believe it. The older I get, the more crazy ideas seem true.
But my point is, like, what I knew as a child in regards to all this has been dwarfed by what I know now. And what I think could be possible in the next 10 years completely changes everything that I will know today.
What do you think could be possible in the next 10 years?
There's like 4 or 5 major technologies I'm significantly paying attention to that are game changing, that I'm very excited about.
Stock options?
Actually, that's one of the things I am keeping very close.
Okay.
So solar panel and energy. There was an experiment at Harvard where they were able to turn heat into electrical energy by using graphene. And it's
using what? Gravity?
Graphene, which is it's a carbon single-threaded, a single atom thread, and then you can run electricity over it. And then heat is just kinetic energy in atoms,
it's not
right?
graphite?
No, graphite is an actual element, but it's graphene, which is carbon-based. And the idea is that the kinetic energy from heat can act like if you squished a hose and it squirts water out one end, it could do that and make electricity move more by the kinetic energy of the heat in the air. If they ever got that up, we could turn heat into electrical energy, which is really cool.
Like
but
grab it out of the air?
Right out of the air.
Like
and now we have new technologies coming out now where they're extracting water out of practically thin air, which is crazy, using this micropore material. They have new water filtration systems that are so advanced it's cheaper to get water out of the ocean than trying to get it out of the ground in certain areas.
Water out of the air instead of water out of the ocean?
Well, they can get water out of the air faster than get water out of the ground in some areas now.
Okay.
Using solar power. It's crazy.
Huh?
It's basically using solar power on condensers through a micropore system to extract the water out of the air. It's hard for me to understand.
That sounds fascinating. I bet that's super clean water. They probably don't have to filter it too much either.
Exactly. Because it's literally just extracting the water vapor out of the air.
Right.
Quantum communications becoming more and more reliable. There's a lot of physicists believe that there's no need for intermediary material, which means that if they ever get it right, we could have point-to-point instantaneous communication on a quantum level anywhere in the universe.
Instantaneous?
Regardless of distance. That's the theory.
Does that mean like audio video signals or all like microwaves?
Yeah. Well, no, not microwaves. It's different. So in quantum entanglement, the idea is that you take 2 materia, usually quartz or something, and you run it through some kind of alignment on a quantum level. And if you take them apart, if you shake one, the other shakes, right? If you cause one to move, the other moves. And anyway, and it's nearly instantaneous. And they're trying to use this technology for like encryption and secure communication and faster data transfer, but it still requires them to be connected somehow, right? Mm-hmm. But the physicists all said we don't need that. In theory, it should work without anything. And if you could get that to work, I could have a chip in my phone that has one of these, and we could have the other chip in some data center somewhere. And then I could be underwater 2 miles in a submersible and have gigabit or petrobit real-time data transfer between the two.
Or even better,
with no signal loss.
I could play a live show in Reno, Nevada with my band, and I could just be here by myself in my living room and listening.
Video projection and audio. Yeah.
That would be cool.
It's crazy. And people are like, well, how do you do that? It's like, we don't know yet. But the theory is there. It's either true or not. If it is, it changes everything. Like everything.
Enough things came together to where some people thought that that might actually happen.
Still do. There's still a lot of people that think it will. And think about it this way. 2 things come out of that. If we can do it, regardless of distance, there's 2 things that happen. One, not only can we send data back and forth instantaneously, we can also send power back and forth instantaneously.
Now that's...
So a robot being driven by a human, humans on Earth, robots on Mars, building out the Mars facility via computers and AI and automation and humans, that works 24/7 via direct
Yeah, you could
communication
send
from
a whole
Earth.
fleet of humanoids up there and we could control them down here. That's smart.
Yeah, like
Terraform it with my AI self.
the potential is endless. Like I could spend days just.
However,
figuring out how to
on
apply
Mars,
that.
I'm just going to be a grunt, or dare I say, a slave. I'm just going to be doing backbreaking work
No, that's not true.
for millennia
So,
while they figure out how to keep my body alive long enough on Earth for me to actually enjoy the Mars that I'm creating.
so I think a podcast series we should do at some point is what does post AI look like? And there's
Post-AI.
3 major outcomes, and one of them will dive into what is it to be a human in a post scarcity, post needing to work society. And that would be fun.
Yeah, we'll do a whole episode on that.
But yeah, that's 2 of them. The other one is CRISPR. Have you heard of that?
I have, but I'm not familiar.
It's a gene editing technology that they just used on a kid to cure one of the fatal diseases, but it allows you to edit the DNA sequence of whatever, apples
Of a
or
living
people or whatever.
thing?
Yeah.
So,
So
if
the
they
ability
looked at
to
me right now, they
re-encode-
found a cancer gene in my family, they could eliminate it before I developed
In
it.
theory, yeah. That's what the technology is for.
That's what's
Now
up.
it's still like very early days. We're like for software terms, it'd be like pre-alpha. It's like early.
Yeah,
we don't-
how are they
we
gonna
don't
how
have-
are they gonna charge for that as an insurance company?
Yeah, you're still thinking about money. You're still thinking about money.
Yeah.
You gotta get rid of that concept in this regard. Anyway, that's a fun. We'll get back to that another day.
Okay.
But the ability to cure all this, and they're finding all these different things for like different gene sequences that are predisposed for illnesses. I don't know if you read this, but they think they found out the gene sequence necessary for gluten sensitivity. And I was like, son of a bitch.
They're gonna cure gluten allergy.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be cool? Because the gluten allergy didn't exist when I was a kid.
it did. It just wasn't registered. That's what everybody forgets. So I want to draw a quick.
Get 5 stick packs of Bucked Up pre-workout, a super soft flag t-shirt, and the perfect 28 Oz shaker bottle all for just $9.99. Head to buckedup.com and use code McMedia1 at checkout for huge savings on all fitness supplements and gear. Don't miss out on this unbeatable deal to power your workouts and look great doing it.
Line. There is a difference between allergy and sensitivity. And I am gluten sensitive, but you can be gluten allergic, and those are very different things.
Yeah, is one like will kill you, right?
So an allergic reaction is where your body thinks it's a foreign invader and it starts fighting it off on a significant level, like if it was a virus or something else. But it can overload your system since it's not actually fighting anything real. It can cause significant problems. Sensitivity is usually like it irritates your stomach and intestinal lining, causing separation, leaky gut, and that autoimmune response,
Diarrhea.
which is a
Got it.
different path. Yeah.
So
One
that's probably what most of the people that say they have a gluten allergy is they get a little diarrhea when they have some bread or something, right?
And for anybody that's curious, there's a simple test. You can just go to your doctor. You can get it checked. They can check for the antibody that is for gluten, and they can find out if you are. It's a 1-day test. Easy breezies.
Blood test?
I did it. I had it checked. I found out. I hate it.
Did you have were you wondering?
I had a lot of stomach problems when I was a kid, like
Yeah.
middle school. And for the longest time, most of my life, I thought it was milk. And then when I found out it was gluten, it completely changed my life. I'm so much healthier now that I know. And I recommend everybody go get tested for the various sensitivities because you may have it to some degree and not even know it. And if you did, let's say you did have a gluten sensitivity, it was mild. You're like, well, screw it. I'm going to go the hard route and get rid of it, just like everything else that's technically toxic to me. What would it do? Well, my skin got better. My sleep got better. My stomach got better. My energy level got better. My mind got better. And then there's all these second things I don't want to TMI that got better. Like it tremendously changed with just knowing that, but I didn't understand it other than my tummy was a little upset sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard to know. These are some good topics for 40-year-old men.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get our daughter tested and she's only 11. So,
Yeah, I think we should probably get mine tested also.
well, that's genetic.
Well, I think my wife has a gluten allergy, but I tolerate it fine.
I would get, if you had the money, test
Yeah,
everybody.
it's
Screw it.
probably covered. I might as well.
Go for it. So yeah, knowledge is power, right? I didn't know about food sensitivities. They didn't know about ADHD. They didn't know about autism. They didn't know about a variety of different things when I was a kid. And learning all this stuff has made my world better. And I'm excited to see what happens next
Right.
when they cure all this shit.
Yeah. Then our perspective will switch again.
Cancer cures are coming up. New longevity treatments are coming up.
We'll
AI
never see a
is
cure
coming
for cancer.
up.
Never. There's too much money involved until, like you say, money goes away.
Well, there's a dam breaking issue here, right? So you can't sell a cure that kills when the population's dying too fast. With the increase that we're seeing in cancer rates across the board, like colon cancer went from being something that people in their 50s and 60s had every once in a while, like maybe 1 out of 10,000. Now we're having kids as young as like 12 and 14 getting it. And then they went from over 50 to over 35 for the Duke medical system to get treated now. Prostate cancer's through the roof. All these different, like every major cancer group is through the roof right now. Lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate, lung cancer, brain cancer, like everything is going through the roof right now. And we know why. It's the food we're eating.
Yeah, it's preservatives,
But-
steroids, all the shit they preserve our food with.
Sure. In fact, colon cancer may have just been linked to cold cut meats, like preserved cold cut meats.
Cold pet meats?
Like if you get sliced ham and at the deli, that kind of stuff. Cold cut meats.
Oh, cold cut meats. I like the last few years I don't like cold cuts anymore. I don't like sandwich meat anymore.
I have to keep it down because of other reasons. And there's a lot of gluten in that shit, so I just don't bother with it.
Yeah.
Gluten is a stabilizer that's added to like so much food you wouldn't even believe.
Did not know
But
that.
they're going to either the population's going to become so sick it can't work and can't buy, and it's just going to, there's a lot of comments that are coming out now and a lot of research coming out now.
I could see the government doing that, jumping in with a cure to save the workforce. If we're losing money, GDP, because old people were
Not
dying,
just
we need
money,
them.
population. That's the big one.
Right.
As the population gets sicker, the human body is designed to stop being able to reproduce at certain health boundaries, right? If you're too fat, you can't get pregnant. If you're too thin, you can't get pregnant. If you're just too unhealthy, if your hormones are out of whack, shit just don't work. And as we become more and more unhealthy as a population, which is, what was I read? % of Americans are now overweight and 40% or 60% are obese, some ridiculous number. As those numbers continue to climb, which they're going to if there's no substantial change, the population rebirth rate or backfill or whatever you want to call it is declining. We are now hitting negative numbers in our population. And our country is going to be shrinking just like Japan is right now in population. Like China and Japan can't pay people to have babies. It's that bad. And it's happening now here. That's why Robert F. Kennedy and Elon and all those guys are screaming bloody murder. And while I may not totally align with all their views, this one's real. And I know many people that can't get pregnant, can't have babies because they're too unhealthy and they're too sick. And as this continues, as it gets worse, birth rates are going to continue to decline, and it will be the end of the human race unless people realize, oh shit, we went too far. We got to double back and get this all in alignment.
So maybe Gilead is the future. Maybe that's right. We need to have some, what are they called? Handmaids to make babies?
Well, you're assuming there's going to be anybody left to do it.
Right.
And then the other part of it too is that brain drain we talked about. As too many people get sick, the knowledge goes out, the reproduction rates aren't there, people can't do stuff, they can't learn, they can't do, like there's so many downstreams. And then you're not even taking into account cataclysms like viral outbreaks. So I don't know how many people know this, but COVID had a disproportionate kill rate depending on your state of health. People that smoked had a much higher chance of dying because of how the virus replicates in the lungs. 2, people that were significantly obese had a much higher chance of dying because the oxygen would decrease in their lungs because of the virus killing lung cells to reproduce. O2 rates drop, they die. And the bigger you are, the more O2 you needed, and the less tolerant you were to the lower oxygen rates. And in old age, being able to fight off. Those were your 3 key factors in your survival from COVID, period.
Right.
Now, genetics does play a role, but that was infinitesimally small from a statistical level compared to the other 3 things. So if the population continues to get sicker, fatter, unhealthier, more miserable, more fucked up hormones, worse immune response, what happens the next time? We lose 80% of the population, 70% of the population. There's a new form of COVID that's starting to make the rounds. It's still mutating. It's still going. Bird flu's out there. It's still going. There's other stuff that's coming.
Measles coming back.
Jeez, don't even get me started on that.
Let's get you started on that. What's up with measles, Jonathan?
I had my vaccine. My family's had this vaccine. That's the best I can do.
Yeah,
So,
me too. I am vaccinated. All of mine.
yes. But I mean, like, that's a great example of ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, tribalism, ignorance being filled with conspiracy and dumbing down of America backfilled this reason number here. You know, kids are dying because, you know, people want it to be greedy at the end of the day.
What did they get out of it though? Like, why talk people out of getting vaccinated? What is their claim? Like the autism thing? Is that the big claim that it causes autism?
Well, as I've said many times, ignorance is often filled with conspiracy. So autism, ADHD, birth rates are another one. I heard a lady just this last week say that she couldn't reproduce anymore because she'd gotten a vaccine. And I pulled a Keanu Reeves. Was like,
how did you
sorry
know
to hear
that?
That bye. I pulled a Keanu Reeves like, okay, sorry about that. Bye.
Yeah.
And bolted.
Thanks.
So I was not dealing with that shit.
Enjoy your experience. See ya.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm disappointed or glad by that response.
Yeah.
If you're that dumb, don't reproduce.
I have no reaction.
I don't know. Not my duck to put in a row. But
Right.
anyway, but the idea that it's going to whatever the conspiracy is why they haven't done it. And then people are like, well, you know, autism rates are going up now, but they weren't going up 20 or 40 years ago. We've had the measles vaccine for what, like 60 years or something, 70 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So why is it now that it's causing autism? It's because it's not. It's other stuff.
I don't know what they get about pushing that conspiracy though.
There's two sides to it from what I understand.
Or they really believe it.
One, tribalism. People really believe that stuff. There's plenty, like I know people that truly believed that the COVID vaccine had Bill Gates's microchip in it that was going to track them.
Yeah. I knew people that
And
really believed that the
they
towers had
screamed
5G.
about that.
Fucking yeah.
Yeah. It's like, where's my 5G reception? Damn it, I got the vaccine.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people that believe, and there is a little bit of information about this, but people locked onto it, believing it's an all or nothing, a causation, correlation, possibly being a factor, that it mutates your genetic line. And I've talked about this. Yeah, some viruses do mutate your genetic line. It doesn't give us a third eye and doesn't give us a tail. So, yeah.
What's it trying to do? Mess with my legacy and my grandchildren?
I mean, technically it always is.
Right.
Every generation,
Absolutely
every child is different.
Right.
Every single child on this planet is different.
They want my children already. My government wants my children.
Yes. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's the other side, too, that is pushing it because that group has money. They have votes and they can empower them to their agendas for whatever it is, whether it's getting more power, getting more money, or it's the there's a new thing that's coming out about flooding the zone. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yeah. Steve Bannon has been talking about it for...
Yeah. So it's another flood the zone thing. For those at home that don't know, so flooding the zone is when you just launch into so many things that you can't focus on one.
Everything the Republican Party is doing right now.
Yeah. So let's talk about vaccines. Let's talk about Russia. Let's not talk
Transgender.
about the big transgenderism's a whole day topic. But
Harvard,
let's not
again, for
focus
joining us
on
on
the
this
bill
journey
that's
of
going to
growth
add
and
$6
discovery.
trillion
If today's episode
debt
got you
to
thinking, we
our
want to hear from you.
economy-
Send your
our-
feedback,
our,
questions, or
whatever,
thoughts to
craziness.
1.6 trillion,
I thought Harvard said it was
mcmedia.network.llc@gmail.com.
$6 trillion
Don't
over
forget
the
to
next
like,
10
comment, and
years will
share
be
this
added to the
episode with someone who
national
needs the
debt if we
mindset
continue
shift.
this path.
Make sure you're following
ridiculous.
Almost Above I can't Average on believe all it.
$6
podcast
trillion.
platforms and subscribe on our I can't believe YouTube it passed the channel House. for
Oh,
even
it's
more
going to go
exclusive
through.
content.
There's no way
Your
it's
feedback
not.
helps us make
Not
the
enough
episodes
spines up
better,
there.
so please keep it
Shame.
coming, and we'll
Well,
see
you
you in
wanna
the
leave
next
it
there, and we'll
episode.
pick it back up here, I don't know, a couple days, maybe tomorrow if you want.
Zzz.